All right, let's get this webinar started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to TekToks. Welcome to the introductory TekTok webinar series with ChemPoint. This is your host, Mark Friedel with ChemPoint. TekTok is a series of webinars hosted by ChemPoint. The content of TekTok webinar series is intended to be informational on subjects that are most important to you and most important to our industry, focusing on innovation trends with influential guest speakers and industry thought leaders. Today, September 16th, 2020, we will focus on digital marketing, and more specifically, the growing need for digital marketing, which has recently transformed into an accelerated need for digital marketing. As the commercial director for ChemPoint and a 20-year member of the team, I will be your host. My co-host is Sean Seibel, who has spent 2+ decades working for major producers in our industry. Sean will walk us through today's content. We will also be joined by ChemPoint Marketing Director Chris Constantine and ChemPoint Innovation Director Brian Ward to be a part of the conversation and, more importantly, to answer questions. We do have a couple things to be aware of in our webinar session today. First, we have allotted 60 minutes, and we will reserve the last 15 minutes of the session for question and answers. There is a Q&A button, I believe, on the bottom of the screen. Just press that button to log a question. This is essentially how we're going to be fielding questions, so please use this feature to ask questions throughout the session, really. Don't just wait till the end. Feel free to ask them at any point. I will collect the questions at the end, and we will address them at the very end. Second, today's webinar is intended to be interactive. So in addition to Q&A at the end, we will also have a handful of questions peppered throughout the session. The questions are optional and intended to be light, intuitive, but hopefully it will also steer today's discussion. So you will need your cell phone camera ready to participate in the questions. Alternatively, you can pull up a web browser to answer the questions. You'll need to go to a website, menti.com, MENTI.com, in order to answer the questions that will come up. Finally, one more thing to note. The content today is about digital marketing. And since digital marketing is relatively new in our industry, there is not a lot of information and data available. Therefore, we will utilize the roughly 7+ years of digital marketing data from ChemPoint to illustrate much of today's content. So please don't take the content of today's webinar to be a commercial on ChemPoint. We are rather exposing much of the historical ChemPoint data as really a best-in-class benchmark, nothing else. So this is not intended to be a commercial. It's really intended to be informational only. Before we get into it, we would like to also set the stage of why digital marketing is even more important in today's world that we live in, especially in 2020, where we have seen some very dramatic changes in the way we live and work. In 2020, we have all experienced a range of emotions that have changed and shifted as the year has progressed. Many of us have already seen, funny pictures such as this, highlighting the emotions many of us have already experienced throughout the year, from elation to confusion to doubt, fear, uncertainty, and really even madness and lunacy. In the early part of 2020, we saw priorities shift fairly dramatically, as illustrated by this funny chart, which many of us have also seen. Fortunately, we now have a 2-year supply of toilet paper. We then saw soaring unemployment. Thankfully, it has started to come back down. Then we saw federal monetary stimulus, especially in the U.S., which made the stimulus during the Great Recession in 2008 look small, and there's obviously talk of more potentially coming. Then it quickly shifted to civil unrest. We are now in the middle of hurricane season, and for those of us fortunate enough to live on the West Coast, fire season. And we will round out the year with a major U.S. election. We all saw the way we work dramatically shift from an office environment, as you can see here, to a home environment, as you can see here, which many of us are familiar with, and some of us even a more drastic environment such as this one, hopefully not all of us. So as mentioned, today's webinar will be interactive, and part of that is going to be questions throughout. So as such, we have come to the first interactive question. The question is geared towards the U.S. stock market. We have all seen a lot of wild swings in the stock market this year. It's started the year with a pretty big decline in early March. We've slowly climbed our way out. We are now at all-time highs. So the question is geared around that. Pull out your cell phones, because the first question: which major U.S. company has had the highest stock return this year? So get out those cell phones, get your camera, and just hold your camera up to this QR code that you see on the slide. If you're using an iPhone, this should automatically prompt you to go to a web browser, and then you can answer the question there. Alternatively, as I mentioned, you can go to the website menti.com, MENTI.com, and you can type in the code that you see here on the slide. Just type it into a box, and you should be able to answer the question that way. And please just type in, one company, and we're only really looking for large, major companies that tend to get all the headlines. So I'll give everyone a few seconds to do this. All right, and in real time, here are some of the responses that we're seeing from the audience today. As you can see here, as they're still coming in, mostly tech companies, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, a lot of tech companies. And that's really no surprise. Technology companies have really led the stock market advances this year, especially given the topic of today's webinar, that technology really is the enabler. It has gotten us through all of the challenges and changes of 2020. I am not sure if there is a single technology company that really has led the charge, but here's a look at a handful of them. These are all major technology companies whose stock prices have had tremendous returns this year. And it's not just the FANG stocks, the FANG stocks that everyone likes to talk about and gets all the headlines, but many and most tech companies have had returns in excess of 20%, 40, 60, 80%, even as high as 300 to 500% in the case of Tesla and Zoom. Some of these numbers might be a little outdated. I ran these numbers a week or two ago, but you get the picture. Technology companies are really leading the charge. It is also no surprise that digital has taken center stage in overall sales. Here is a chart of U.S. e-commerce sales as a percentage of overall sales. As expected, this trend has grown fairly significantly over the last 10 years, but it really has accelerated very dramatically in the last year, really this year. Before I turn it over to my co-host, Sean Seibel, to review the content we have prepared on digital marketing today, I would like to ask one more question. So pull out those cell phones and get the camera ready. The question: what is the largest chemical and ingredient database? Again, scan the QR code or go to menti.com to answer the question. Type in an answer, and I'll provide just a quick clue. Since this isn't a commercial about ChemPoint, don't type in ChemPoint as the answer. Type in another company. Please take a few seconds to do this now. Hopefully this is a little bit easier the second time around. Now please hold tight with this question. We're not going to show the results just yet. We're going to come back to it in a few minutes here. So just hold tight on that. And now, I will turn it over to my colleague, Sean Seibel, who will go through the content for today.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the great introduction. My name is Sean, and we're going to spend the rest of this webinar talking about digital marketing. And the reason is we've seen a significant increase in digital marketing, especially in 2020, this year of transformation. A lot of people and a lot of companies have approached us asking about our experience with digital marketing because they are interested to actively practice that. So we decided to put this webinar together to discuss in general what is digital marketing, how does it work, and what are some of the things you need to consider. So for our agenda today, we're going to start off by talking about the state of digital marketing within the chemical and ingredient industry, because it is not yet widespread, but there is significant interest. We're going to provide real-world examples of digital marketing that we have put together over the years from our experience as well. We're going to talk about the growing importance of digital marketing. We have seen increases in website traffic and lead generation over the years, but as Mark mentioned, 2020 is a year of transformation, and we have seen a huge spike in interest and importance of digital marketing within the chemical ingredient industry. And then finally, because people have approached us being interested to enter the digital marketing world themselves within the industry, we're going to talk about some of the best practices, some of the do's and don'ts. So in terms of the state of digital marketing, we have to start off and talk about a customer journey. Now, it's important to understand that the customer journey is separate and distinct from a traditional buying cycle. The customer journey is defined by Silicon Valley as e-commerce and online buying have proliferated over the last 20 years. So the customer journey from a digital perspective starts with a discovery phase. Somebody is looking for something new, whether it's an idea or a chemical and ingredient product. They're trying to go out there and become aware of what there could be. Once they find some things that interest them, they enter what we call the research phase, because they're not just out shopping on a whim, especially in the chemical and ingredient industry. There are certain needs, certain performance gaps, certain regulatory gaps, and the online researcher has to translate those requirements against what they found in the discovery phase and evaluate the options. Finally, once they make that comparison, they move to a selection phase where they qualify the solution to find the right option. Once they're happy with what they found and it works, then they move on to purchasing, and after that, they expect support from the supplier in order to get further documentation or any technical follow-up. What's important to note here is the Silicon Valley definition of customer journey. Digital marketing has been playing a growing role in the first three phases of discovery, research, and selection. And we're going to focus on those today. We're going to start off by talking about what is digital marketing. And the definition of digital marketing absolutely has to start with strategy, because digital marketing involves activities and online content. And if those activities and that content are not aligned with a product or portfolio strategy, you will end up having a scattershot approach to digital marketing, and it's probably not going to be as effective as it could be. So you need to have a strategy for your traditional portfolio and align your digital activities and content around that. Digital marketing is also about sales leads. The whole point of this is to efficiently produce sales leads in the digital universe, which will ultimately generate new demand. So you take the customer journey, you build that into a traditional buying cycle, you're generating leads based on the strategy you have for your portfolio, you generate new demand. But in the end, as you collect a wealth of data, digital data, traditional data through this whole cycle, you should, in the end, be able to come out and clearly document the return on your digital marketing investment. If you can't do that, you're probably doing something wrong. Now we move on to why is digital marketing important? And number one is brand awareness. Every digital marketing campaign you run, you're going to have tens of thousands of people in the online universe see your brand name, whether it's your company, your logo, or your branded products. So increased brand awareness will always be happening through a digital marketing process. You will see greater demand happening because as more and more people, especially under COVID lockdown, lack of face-to-face interaction, they're doing their research and their product selection online. So if you can drive traffic to your website, you will generate greater demand, which will result in sales growth and improved profitability. But again, as mentioned in the last slide, a huge difference with respect to digital versus traditional marketing. In the digital universe, you are collecting rich customer data, and that gives you the ability to track and calculate a return on investment, as well as evaluate, more effective marketing campaigns in the future. Now we're going to provide real-world digital marketing examples. In terms of digital marketing, there are multiple channels to market, but it all starts with your website. This is what you're trying to achieve. Drive traffic to your website. We call it a landing page. And the landing page could be the home page of your company website. A landing page for a specific digital marketing campaign could also be a subset or a subpage within your website directly related to a certain type of product or a certain portfolio. It starts with the website, but there are multiple channels involving digital marketing. One of them is called search engine optimization. Another is called search engine marketing. A third, display and retargeting. Email. Everyone is familiar with email blasts. They're relatively easy to perform as long as you have a rich customer relationship management database and email addresses to send the blast to. Social media, specifically LinkedIn. A lot of posts, a lot of likes on LinkedIn. And then finally, product listing ads. What I'm going to do now is drill down into a little bit more detail for each of these specific channels to market with digital marketing activities. As mentioned before, it starts with the website because your website is your home base for both brand and products. And it is very critical to understand that your website is the home base for both brand and products, because it's where your customers will initially engage you if they come to you during a product selection process during their customer journey. The challenge from digital marketing is that you need to drive traffic to your website as opposed to just letting people come to your website directly based on brand awareness. So actively driving traffic to this website is the whole goal of digital marketing. With respect to the website, what's important to note is your website has to be clean, it must be easy to navigate, and it must provide a rich customer experience, because if it's difficult to navigate or does not provide a good customer experience, somebody who comes to your website, whether direct or via digital marketing, is probably not going to stay very long. Hence, actively driving traffic to a clunky website is relatively ineffective because the people are not going to drill down any further. They'll back out and they'll go someplace else, and we will get more into that later. Once you have your website and you begin active digital marketing, the first one we're going to talk about is search engine optimization, because a lot of people utilize keywords and type them into a Google search or a Bing search and rely on the search engine algorithm to figure out what they are looking for and return a set of links to help them find it. Now, the challenge from digital marketing here is that you need to game these search engine algorithms to make sure that your link comes in the number 1, 2, or 3 position. And I will show data later, statistics that will indicate that if you're not in the top 3, your link will probably not be clicked. So if you're not in the top 3 search results of a Google or Bing keyword search, you will probably be invisible. Search engine marketing takes a different approach to being in the top results of search engine algorithms. Here you're just simply paying to be in the first spot. You understand what a search engine or SEM approach is because it's always got the word ad in it. So we call it also pay per click because you are paying the search engine company for every potential customer that clicks on that link. And in exchange for that monetization or monetary exchange, the search engine company will make sure that your paid ad is put number one. After that will come other search engine optimization algorithm results. Display and retargeting gets a little bit more complicated. Display marketing really focuses on awareness and brand building. You can target your customers by keywords, websites, or industry. But what display marketing really evolves or gets down into is you're displaying an ad on a third-party website. So this is an example of a personal care industry website, and a supplier is posting an ad on that. And hopefully we can get a potential customer to become interested based on the ad and click there in order to get to our landing page. I mentioned earlier that a lot of customers don't go all the way through the landing page. Maybe it was just the wrong time for the right product that becomes interesting later on. Retargeting is an approach to hit that right time. It's a reminder marketing campaign. So if you know that somebody came to your website and started to look up a product but then backed out and went somewhere else, the nature of the digital universe is you can follow that person around. Everybody drops cookies these days. And based on those cookies, you can follow them around, and when they visit another website, you can re-engage that customer by reminding them through the retargeting process. And hopefully this time is the right time, and they go all the way to a successful sales cycle close. So retargeting is based on customers or potential customers that have already looked at your product but did not end up buying the first time around. Email marketing. I mentioned before that everybody is familiar with email marketing, email blasts. Email is really about driving awareness and education of your products. It's not that successful at the sales cycle, people looking at your product specifically. But email is relatively easy to perform, which is why everyone is familiar with it and thinks that that is digital marketing. The truth is, email marketing is a very small part for the simple phrase junk mail. A lot of people in their head, they will open it up or they will see the company brand name. So there is a driver for brand awareness with every email campaign. But the reality is that beyond that awareness, it really is not an efficient approach to digital marketing. The other challenge in email marketing is that you really need to have a large number of email addresses that you can potentially send this to. Otherwise, you're not going to have success at all. And there are also some legal issues, specifically in Europe, where people can opt out of email marketing, and it is actually illegal to send them any further email blasts. It has significant implications. Social media, I mentioned earlier. Everybody is posting links on LinkedIn, making likes, making comments, sharing it with their network. Really, though, it's not about driving product conversion. It's really about driving brand awareness and brand marketing. And then finally, product listing ads, or what we call PLAs. PLAs are when customers who are further along in the buying journey and are actually ready to buy and want to compare side by side some of the products or some of the options they have looked at. So they type the keyword in, they do their specific search, and what pops up first is a comparison side by side of similar products produced by different manufacturers. The danger here for any particular manufacturer or supplier is that pricing strategy becomes much more important, because as a chemical ingredient manufacturer, your product, with its price usually listed in a PLA, is going to be compared side by side. So if you price too high, you're not going to see a sale. It's just competitively inefficient. On the other hand, if you price too low, you can drop the market out for everyone. So you have to have a very strong pricing strategy, which takes this back to the very beginning that digital marketing activities must be aligned with your product and portfolio strategy to be effective. Now, we've talked about over the years, there has been an increasing interest in digital marketing. There has not been widespread use of it in the chemical and ingredient industry today. But as Mark mentioned in the introduction, 2020 has been a year of transformation. We're actually going to utilize ChemPoint data due to the lack of specific statistics within the chemical ingredient industry. ChemPoint initiated active digital marketing activities in the year 2013. The big one is search engine optimization, and I will tell you up front that search engine optimization is fairly complicated. It takes a long learning curve to become good at it, and we will get into why later on. But after adoption, what will happen with your digital marketing activities is that website traffic might remain a little flat for the first few years until you go down that learning curve and become very good at it. But in today's world, you will start to see a significant increase in website traffic because, again, digital marketing is actively trying to drive website traffic as opposed to just having people come directly to your website by typing www.companyx.com because they're familiar with you. And as mentioned before, we have seen a huge increase in the first half of 2020 due to the COVID lockdown. Now, there are some seasonality ups and downs here in terms of website traffic. So in December, at the end of 2019, obviously, the world pretty much shuts down, which means that a lot of people were doing their product selection research in October to wrap up the end of the year. But in the first half of 2020, as the world went into lockdown in February and March, we've seen a significant increase in website traffic. So now we're going to move to the next survey question. And I'm going to give 30 seconds for you to pull out your phone and ask, what is the largest chemical and ingredient database? Here are some of the answers that we've gotten. Distributors, online marketplaces, large chemical companies like Dow and BASF who have such a wide range of products. So large chemical companies have a wide range of products, and therefore they have a significant amount of chemical and ingredient information available on their specific websites. If you look at online marketplaces, they represent multiple suppliers, dozens of suppliers with thousands of products. So online marketplaces also have a significant amount of chemical and ingredient information. And the same with distributors. Distributors represent multiple suppliers. But the truth is, the largest database for chemical and ingredients in the world is Google. Simply put, Google goes and looks at the website of all of those large chemical manufacturers, distribution companies, and online marketplaces. Google has access to all of that data, which means that they are the largest database in the world for chemical ingredients. So when someone does a Google search, you have to understand that with respect to digital marketing, you have to be able to interact with the Google algorithm in order to be successful. Which marketing activity drives the most customer engagement? I will give you 15 seconds. And I will give you a hint. I've already mentioned it several times as being the most prolific channel for digital marketing. Here are the respondents' results. Search engine optimization came in at 65%. 4% said direct visitors, where somebody just goes in and types in www.companyx.com. Only 4% of respondents said that's the most important for customer engagement. Search engine marketing, 17, then email, display ads, and social media. Well, whoever said search engine optimization was actually listening to me earlier in the presentation. I mentioned it several times because the reality is this, and we're showing 2020 digital marketing traffic sources from the ChemPoint website to give you a direct flavor of what digital marketing can do versus direct website traffic. In 2020 so far, search engine optimization has driven 42% of our website traffic to date. And with respect to digital, you have to understand that this is the type of data that you can see and collect and utilize for further refinement of marketing campaigns. So search engine marketing was number one with 42% of our website traffic. Relying on our own brand awareness with existing customers, other people who might know of us, direct website traffic, typing in www.companyx.com, resulted in 26%, so number two. And a close number three was search engine marketing at 25%. I mentioned earlier that email, the connotation of junk mail, etc., it is good for brand awareness because people will see your name in the email ad or the email subject line, or even if they open it up. But really, it only drives a very small amount of website traffic. And then with respect to referral and social media, even less. So search engine optimization is number one. Direct website is number two. Search engine marketing is number three. Now, some critical takeaways for this, for those of you who are interested in looking at investment into digital marketing. In the chemical and ingredient industry, historically, direct website traffic was the norm. You build your website, you hope you have significant brand awareness, and people will type in your company name and just come directly. Digital marketing is meant to actively drive potential users or potential customers to your website. If you are only relying on direct website traffic, you are only getting 1/4 of the potential traffic that you could theoretically generate. You need to actively engage, become good at, and run digital marketing campaigns with all of these channels in order to realize the other 75% of potential website traffic. So if you're not doing active digital marketing, you are missing a significant number of potential leads. And with respect to SEO being number one in driving website traffic, I mentioned earlier that if you're not in the top 3 links by gaming a Google or Bing algorithm to come out on top, you're going to be invisible. So we call it a position click. Where are your links with respect to others in search engine results? The first link has a 35% probability of being clicked. The second link drops all the way down to 15%, and the third link drops down to 10%. Beyond the third link, there is equal probability distribution of being clicked, and the remaining probability after the first 3 links is not that significant, so you probably will not be clicked. Search engine optimization has become the most prolific tool within the digital marketing arsenal, and the whole point of that is to get the Google and Bing algorithm to recognize your website as being important in a keyword search and bringing you back in their search engine results in the top 3 links. SEO has been outpacing other channels. On the right here, this is actual ChemPoint data comparing direct website traffic to SEO. Historically, as I mentioned before, direct website traffic has been the norm within the chemical and ingredient industry, relying on brand awareness. Even in 2019, direct website traffic slightly outpaced SEO here in the darker green. Moving to 2020, our year of transformation, lack of face-to-face interactions, what we have seen is with a significant amount of increased online traffic, search engine optimization has quickly outpaced anything else, including direct website traffic. So if you're not engaged in becoming good at search engine optimization, you're not going to drive the website traffic that you theoretically can. Now we're going to get into some of the comments about what it takes to succeed in search engine optimization, because you don't just hire an intern to put this together. This is an ongoing process, and it requires a learning curve. You require a marketing team, a digital marketing team specifically, to interact with your traditional marketing team. And that digital marketing team must be resourced. Google and Bing will be changing their algorithms on a continuous basis, and your digital marketing team has to keep abreast of those changes. You will also have to have your digital marketing team and an IT team dedicated to this to periodically audit and update your website for content. This is important because if your website is stagnant, you're going to lose the ability to come in the top 3 links in an algorithm search. Thirdly, your marketing team, digital marketing team, and your IT group must ensure that website functionality is easy and does provide an enhanced user experience. The reason for this is twofold. Search engine optimization is about gaming search engine algorithms. Search engine algorithms incorporate website functionality or ease of use and enhanced user experience as part of their consideration for where they will return your link in terms of positioning. But also, as I mentioned earlier, that if your website functionality is not easy and does not provide an enhanced user experience, even if someone comes and clicks on your link, they're probably not going to stay for very long. Now let's talk about SEO, navigating the Google algorithm maze. As I mentioned, Google is constantly changing its search engine algorithm. And with the COVID lockdown, in 2020, they have already changed their algorithm twice. Now, the lockdown started globally in February and March. Google's last change, it was in May 2020. And that change to their algorithm was one of the most significant changes in Google's history. And the driver behind it was the huge spike in people going online and looking and doing Google searches. Now, you have to understand that the details of these search engine algorithms are proprietary to those companies. They don't disclose the details. But overall, from an investment perspective for suppliers that are looking to get into this, the values that the algorithm considers do remain consistent. Number one is website history. A website that has been around a long time is more recognized by a Google algorithm than a website that is brand new. So the more established you are with an online history, the higher the return. Quality of content in your website is equally as important. And here we're talking about having the right keywords, because in search engine optimization, specifically in search engine marketing, somebody is typing in keywords. So you have to have the right keywords online. You have to have the right number of keywords. You have to have the right placement of keywords. Your website has to be having the right pictures, the right layout, etc. And if your website for a particular product mimics someone else's website, and there's very little differentiation between the two sites, Google does not like that. You have to be separate, distinct, and differentiated with the keywords, the layout, etc. As mentioned before, your website must provide a good, easy user experience. Otherwise, Google will not go to you or recommend you because they don't want their online searchers to become frustrated. Speed of website, for the same reason. The faster you are, the better you are. And then there are some other technical considerations like crawlability, and we'll use the word scalability. You know, we talked about large chemical companies, distribution companies, and online marketplaces having a wide variety of products and product information. But Google sees all of that and has access to it because they do something called crawling. They will go to the website and they will crawl through the website and they will scrape the information and keep it available in their own Google universe. So if it is difficult for Google to crawl and scrape information from individual other party websites, Google's not going to give them much credibility. Here's a history of search engine changes by Google, and I'm telling you up front, don't even try to read it. The point of this is that you need to have an experienced digital marketing team that is appropriately resourced, and it will take them time to go through the learning curve to understand all of this. But this is a history of changes from Google to their algorithm, to their functionality, to their layout, to everything, starting from the year 2000 all the way up to 2020. These are the details, or these are the topics that have been changes to algorithm functionality without Google providing underlying details behind it that your digital marketing team is going to have to figure out going down the learning curve, and they will experience significant trial and error along the way. But once they begin to understand what works versus doesn't work, it becomes very effective. Now we're going to look at the growing importance of digital marketing. Earlier I showed you that over time, because ChemPoint moved to an active digital marketing approach or business model in 2013, earlier I showed the trend in website traffic. We were actively driving website traffic. Here we're looking at digital marketing leads. So digital marketing actively drives traffic, which results in significantly higher lead generation. I do not overlap the website traffic with the lead generation line, but I can tell you that the trend line is the same. Based on our data, there is a direct correlation between the amount of website traffic you generate and the number of leads that you generate. So lead gen, based on our internal data, has a direct correlation to website traffic. Now, the challenge for website traffic and lead generation is you have to increase brand awareness. So you're running campaigns with your digital marketing that we call awareness campaigns and issue campaigns. You're trying to grow brand awareness and highlight certain products that can overcome certain issues. But you want to grow in an environment that's online, and you have to recognize that there are thousands of choices. So if someone becomes a lead after being trafficked to your website, if they actually become a lead, they're expecting fast execution, and you have to follow up in a very timely manner. Because in the digital universe, there are thousands of other choices, and if a user does not get what they are looking for fast, they're going to back out and go someplace else. As mentioned earlier, digital marketing requires experience with search engine algorithms. Your site has to be highly ranked. And we wrap this slide up by talking about inside sales and market development. That if you are highly ranked, you increase brand awareness, you are looking to grow, you drive traffic to your website, and that traffic is directly correlated to lead generation. Once that lead is generated for fast execution, we recommend you have to consider an inside sales and market development team. If you rely on traditional boots on the ground, it's just too slow, and your lead follow-up will take days, if not weeks, if not months. And an expectation in a digital universe is minutes to hours. The average ChemPoint response time to an online lead, on average, is 31 minutes. And that's because we employ an inside sales and market development model. Looking at digital marketing best practices. We talked earlier about the customer journey coined by Silicon Valley as e-commerce has proliferated. Here we're going to go back to a traditional sales cycle, where you're trying to drive awareness of your product, because if no one is aware of your product, they're not going to buy it. Then there is interest. Your product has to do something. Even if someone is aware your product exists, but they don't have a need that your product will satisfy, they're not going to buy it. But if they're aware that your product exists and they think that your product can satisfy an unmet need, they will probably consider your product. If they match requirements to your capabilities, they will probably go through an evaluation phase, and if that is successful, they will move to purchase. From a digital marketing perspective, what happens compared to a traditional buying cycle is you're starting off with your marketing campaigns. And this is from a proprietary marketing campaign. I cannot get into details as to which product or which portfolio it involves, but digital marketing campaign actively drives traffic to your website. That website traffic, we call those people visitors. and they are looking for a self-service experience by coming to your website and just initially poking around looking for information. And the important takeaway here is your digital marketing campaign can generate tens of thousands of visitors. So when we talked about increased brand awareness with every campaign, that's where we're coming from. Tens of thousands of visitors from a specific campaign. Now you've got visitors to your website, and we talked about a direct correlation to digital leads. The truth is that the number of leads generated might directly correlate, but it's actually going to be much smaller. Not everyone who is now aware of you and your portfolio will have an interest. So the lead gen will drop down, but it's still significant. You're talking thousands of leads, as opposed to a traditional marketing, which might generate a few dozen at most. From those leads, if you execute quickly when they reach out for follow-up, because visitors are looking for a self-servicing experience to just initially explore around, but once they become an active lead, they're probably going to reach out looking for further information. And at that point, they want fast execution and follow-up to get that information, or they go somewhere else. That's why we recommended an inside sales and market development team for rapid follow-up. Now you're turning that lead into an opportunity that you can further develop. So the number of opportunities and samples go out is still lower than the actual number of digital leads, but it's usually more significant than a traditional marketing approach. And with your inside sales and market development team, you cultivate, you develop the opportunity, and transform that as possible into sales or new business. So this is the sales cycle and each step of the digital marketing process along the way. Now we're going to talk about digital marketing best practices, do's and don'ts. In the last slide, we talked about the first stage of the customer journey, and the buying cycle is a self-service step. A digitally enabled customer will always start out with their Google search engine, keyword search. You know, you might get search engine marketing kicked in, or maybe they're coming directly to your website. But either way, they're doing it in a self-service approach. They're going to explore online. But once they find something of interest and they reach out for more information, speed of response to a request is the most critical aspect of this. In the online world, they're not looking for face-to-face, take me out to lunch, let's develop a relationship. They're looking for specific information that they discovered through the self-service process, and they want somebody now on the other end of this network to follow up. Keep your focus technical. We are the chemical and ingredient industry. They don't want a relationship. They want technical or regulatory information. They want you to help them formulate, and it does not require a face-to-face. But they are looking to move from a self-service into a connected customer experience. So you need someone on the other end of the line, whether it's via email, telephone, web chat, etc., to help that customer during the opportunity development phase feel connected. In terms of don'ts, it's pretty simple. Don't confuse digital marketing as an online marketplace. They are very separate and distinct. An online marketplace could theoretically engage in digital marketing, but they typically don't, because online marketplace models try to attract online traffic based on volume of content. A marketplace will typically focus on particular industry segments. They will represent multiple suppliers and thousands of products, having that product, technical, and regulatory information on a single third-party hosted website. It's that amount of information that will attract the online traffic to a specific marketplace. The challenge here from the volume-based approach versus a digital marketing approach, the volume-based marketplace approach can result in brand dilution for specific chemical and ingredient suppliers because you're being compared to other competitors on the same marketplace website. So it can result in that it will dilute your brand through the marketplace portfolio marketing approach. They are marketing different portfolios from different suppliers. If a supplier enters digital marketing, Now you can get into specific product marketing. So it's very important to understand this difference, that going to an online marketplace to host your information is not digital marketing. It does not necessarily mean that it's going to actively drive traffic to your website. In terms of website functionality, we talked earlier, it has to provide a good user experience. It has to be clean and easy to navigate. We're not pushing ChemPoint here, but we will utilize the ChemPoint website example because it is the first step in digital marketing. We were the first company to engage in active digital marketing in the chemical ingredient industry, so it's a good example of what to do versus what not to do. In terms of website, keep it clean. You know, we are a digital marketing company with full distribution capabilities, so we have an easy link here for suppliers who want to become a producer partner or potential customers to find the right product. So if someone comes directly, this is what they will see. If someone has done a Google search and drills down into something, you know, a specific product that we might carry, it will take them to a subpage within our online presence specifically for that. But the point and the takeaway is keep it clean and easy to navigate. They will start out with a self-service approach to find the right product or become a partner. But eventually, if they are interested, they will reach out, and you have to make reaching out easy. Up here in the upper right, it's a simple button, contact us. And if they click on that, what they will see is that when you're ready, call us. Here's our number. If you're looking for support articles or technical information, fill out the online questionnaire, give us your information, we will send it to you. Or you fill out the information online and we will follow up with you to answer your questions via telephone. There is also a lot of email interaction. And on average, we average 31 minutes from a web lead to have any of, from our side, reaching out to follow up, 31 minutes. More recently, what we have implemented is web chat. We implemented that in the spring of 2019. And we'll be honest with you, when we implemented web chat, we didn't know how it would go, but it has turned out to be wildly successful. So on our website, we had the Contact Us button, which leads to this view, making it easy for someone to reach out and request follow-up. But down in the lower right, there is a link that you can click that will take you to web chat. In terms of success for web chat, not knowing how it would go, we had over 12,000 web chats achieved within the first 6 months of implementation. And the unique characteristic of web chat is that follow-up is almost instantaneous. There is someone dedicated to web chats within the company, and as soon as it comes in, the follow-up is nearly instantaneous. So if you're going to enter digital marketing where fast execution is critical, keep your website clean. When someone moves from a self-servicing, looking around, browsing model or approach, they want follow-up, make follow-up easy and fast. Now we're going to get into some of the challenges, and it's pretty straightforward. We talked about digital marketing experience specifically with SEO. Google and Bing do not tell you what their algorithm details are. It takes time and a learning curve to figure it out. So you have to expect that you will go down a learning curve involving trial and error to gain the experience to be successful specifically with SEO. This means that it's going to take time for implementation. But you cannot wait to get it right because the technical and the digital world are evolving. If you take the time to go down that learning curve before launching digital campaigns, you're already 2 years behind. The algorithms have already changed. You have to go down the learning curve in real time and still keep up with those changes, which talks about or leads to the concept of a dedicated digital marketing team. The equipment, the team, and the time all work together to generate a cost. You also have to consider that there are in-house tech teams who will handle your website content. They will run the audits, etc. So you will have a digital marketing team that must work synergistically with an in-house tech team to pull all of this off. And yes, it can get a little complicated, especially with trial and error. What we recommend in order to overcome that challenge with respect to digital marketing activities, set clear goals and track against every campaign. We talked earlier that you are generating a ton of data and should be able to calculate ROI. That data will allow you to define what has worked versus what has not worked. You can retweak the goals, but continue tracking. It is a learning curve. And in the end, if you are successful with all of these challenges and you are driving traffic, which correlates to increased lead gen, make sure that you have the resources in-house that will allow fast customer response. So for those who have asked us, what does it take to be successful in digital marketing, these are the primary challenges that we will tell you about. Now, in terms of the digital growth trend, Mark showed earlier U.S. e-commerce sales over time, steadily increasing. Everybody's going to Amazon, et cetera, and it's just increasing in popularity over time. And then we hit our year of transformation, and people are staying home. Many stores have closed. They're buying and hoping for home delivery in order to avoid exposure to the coronavirus. So e-commerce has been growing steadily, and then 2020 really took off. We're putting this up here because we want to compare digital sales from ChemPoint over that same period of time. And the reason that we're doing that, so the orange line is our sales strictly related to digital activities by ChemPoint. And there's an arrow here in 2013, and I explain the significance like this. From its founding through 2013, the ChemPoint business model more closely related to an online marketplace. In 2013, ChemPoint made the decision to engage in active digital marketing activities. So pre-digital marketing, post-digital marketing. As our model more closely resembled an online marketplace, we did well with digital sales, 2 to 3 to 4%, but it was once we engaged in active digital marketing, the amount of sales related to digital activities on top of the baseload sales that we have from our traditional distribution, or rather our distribution activities, repeat customers, et cetera. The amount of sales significantly skyrocketed over time to it now represents almost 15% of our sales, and that is entirely due to actively engaging in digital marketing. This is what the payoff is. I'm going to wrap up here by talking about data analytics, because throughout the entire digital marketing process, you are collecting digital information about your visitors, your leads, your opportunities. You're also collecting traditional information from your market development people. It is paramount that you have a robust customer relation management tool that, one, allows you to capture all of that data, and number two, that allows you to analyze it. Analyzing the data is just as important as capturing it, because it can allow you to do certain analyses that will drive actionable business decisions. Number one, you can refine marketing campaigns. In the end, it also helps you calculate return on investment. In between refining marketing campaigns and documenting ROI, or a whole host of other business decisions that data analytics can help you with. And from that, we're going to wrap up today by talking about our next Tech Talk webinar, which will focus on data analytics, specifically giving you examples of how to combine the digital data versus traditional data to drive marketing campaigns, more effective marketing campaigns, sales enablement, and then finally looking at forecasting capabilities, combining third-party data with new emerging technologies. And that next webinar will be October 28th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much, everybody. I am Sean, and I turn it back over to Mark and to Chris for the Q&A portion.
We've got a few questions that have started coming in, and we'll just go through them. I think there are some questions that people are asking about sharing the content. I know we've only got a few more minutes left. Yeah, we're happy to share the content for those that attended the webinar, and we will get those out to you, get some of the slides and content out to the participants. So thanks again for joining. The next question that came in was being able to provide an example of the quantified inputs to the ROI. And with this question, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Marketing, Chris Constantine. Chris, can you, do you have audio connected here? We might need to get Chris off mute to address this one. Chris, are you with us yet?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep. There you are. Yep, you're on.
Perfect. So the first question that Mark, you'd put out there was, is there any very specific ROI, like inputs for digital marketing? And there's a lot that we look at, but some of the ones that are very easily definable is your ad spend. So if you're using Google AdWords or a third-party ad network, every single time somebody clicks on your ad, you get charged, and you can take that information and set it up to very specific campaigns, and that would be one of your investment inputs, if you will. There's other broad-reaching, if you will, investment-type inputs. You've got things like paying your marketing team to do strategy, having an editorial calendar, and then getting more into the execution of copywriting, design, development, potentially also using a email marketing automation platform like Marketo to be able to fire off emails. All those have a cost associated with them. The key is taking those costs and then plugging them into very specific leads that you get and results. You can actually see not only just overall ROI, but ROI by campaign or by specific year or by marketing channel, whether it be SEO compared to the ads at the top of Google. For us, the big return is sales. We're lucky to be able to have full fulfillment here at ChemPoint. We're a distributor, and so if we can get a customer into our pipeline for our market development team, and there's a cost associated with that, and we can track it. If that customer turns into new business, now we're tracking the return, the sales of that customer, and whatever margins and such we're making out of that.
Great, thanks, Chris. We'll go to the next question. If there's any other questions from the attendants, please type it into the Q&A feature within WebEx. But Chris, if you can stay with us, I think the next question would probably be best addressed by you as well. Is there a way to get search reports from Google to identify technology needs, trends by technology type or application?
There is some information from Google, and I'm actually putting some different keyword research tools in the chat for all attendees. Hopefully that's helpful to some people. So the first one is there is something that's completely free called Google Trends, and you can go look it up. And I think Sean had mentioned it earlier. You can type in specific keywords, and Google will tell you, how much traffic, is it increasing, is it decreasing? You can also utilize a tool called Ahrefs, just a technical silly name, but it is a product out there that's available. There's another one called SEMrush, which can allow you to do keyword research. Both of those do have a fee associated with them, though. It's not too expensive. You can also, if you have a Google AdWords account, they have a keyword planner tool that is very similar to the Google Trends tool, but it has a bit more detail. But again, you'll have to be using Google Ads to have that access to that tool. So those are 4 options for you to take a look at doing some keyword research and trend analysis.
Great.
I have put all
Thanks,
those
Chris.
into the I put those all into the chat function if anybody wants to look them up.
Chris, stay with us again here. I think this next question is going to come towards you, and it's really more expanding upon the changes within the Google algorithm. Obviously, search engine optimization is one of the most important marketing tactics, as we could see here in today's presentation. But looking at the best way to capitalize, I think the question is best way to capitalize on the Google algorithm changes, and how, and maybe best in class ways to understand those and build upon them.
Sure, it's a real big question. I think it's very fair because not only has Google built a monopoly in this space, but they constantly are improving. At the end of the day, Google wants to predict what the user is typing in as a keyword and trying to give them exactly what they're looking for. So if I was at Google, in charge of Google, the advice they would give you is, build a website that is really, really user-friendly and provides exactly the type of content that a user doing search around that specific content, whether it be an ingredient or fixing a problem or a very specific brand, that content must match what that user would be looking for. That's on the front end, if you will, when it comes to what a user would see. It's the feel of the website, how easy is it to navigate, and how good is the content. But there are also something to take into account, and this is probably things that don't change too much, but Google also looks at things that generally a user won't see. How fast does your website load? If it loads slower than 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, they're going to dock you some points. You're not going to rank as quickly, or as high, rather. If your website, as mentioned before by Sean, has duplicate content, Google is not like plagiarism. They want everybody to create their own unique content because they don't find it as useful. That's another big one. But again, the user might not know that on their end. There's also errors on your website if your website has errors. And so there's a lot of tools that can help you in both regards, the back-end technical side that you need to take into account, and then also the front-end side. And Google, when they do updates, will provide high-level guidance. An example with the recent update in May is that historically they have really valued linking from other websites as an indicator to the value of a website. They've downranked that a bit in the last update. And so more what is on your website compared to who's linking to your website, that's more important, the actual content on your website. So they will provide guidance. You can look this up, just Google it, funny enough, and you'll be able to get guidance from them on recent changes they make. They usually make 2 to 3 major updates per year.
Thanks, Chris. I know we're at the end of our hour. We do have a couple more, maybe we can try to get to a couple more quick questions. And Chris, maybe stay with us. I think these are going to be kind of all geared towards you, and I can kind of help out here. But the next question was, how does product pricing play into a digital marketing strategy?
Very good question. That is something that I think everyone in the chemical and ingredient industry is concerned with, is that no one wants to leave any money on the table, right, at the end of the day, but they also don't want to have potential customers turned away if they see a price that isn't favorable. I think this is an area that is developing in the chemical and ingredient space, and so there is an opportunity to kind of test. In some of the markets ChemPoint works in, pricing is already available online. People are already having e-commerce platforms with pricing available, and people can just buy. But in the majority of the chemical industry, I'm thinking, more specialty products like in the coatings, the plastics, lubricant space, HI&I, that isn't present. And so, what I would recommend in that regard, not to give too much away, is test with products that you're comfortable with. Take into account that your current customers might be looking online, and if they see a price that's not favorable to them, meaning that they've been priced too high, there's a concern you need to take into account because everybody is going online. From an overall strategy standpoint, I would say that the user acceptance to buy products online is usually probably smaller packaging in general, and so there probably is some value to extract from that when people are looking online, because they're getting that quick self-service and purchasing instead of having to have a long conversation with somebody, and they may just be looking to buy like one pail or a drum, and so there might be some value to extract there.
Thanks, Chris. I think we'll just take one more question here, and this one just came in. How do you change the culture and or work process for your teams to have a response time that's as short as we mentioned, 30, 31 minutes?
It's a great question. We've been developing this actually over the last 4 or 5 years and have continually added additional focus to it. I think ChemPoint's kind of always been in a position to have a culture around speed. Speed of response, speed of execution has been key to us. And so I think from a cultural standpoint, we just really needed the tools. One thing that people, we always kind of joke about internally at ChemPoint is ChemPoint had e-commerce capabilities back in 2000, and no one used it. And so we generally have been a very much focused on online and speed when it comes to our culture. What we've had to do to bring that into reality, if you will, when it comes to customers reaching out to us by a web chat or a phone or a form fill, is create technology that really connects the customer quickly to the right audience. And so we have a rule. if you want to have a fantastic customer experience, get them to the right person as absolutely fast as possible as you can. And the more you can automate that process so they're not going through somebody that's doing a routing, if you will, the better. And so for us, it was less about culture because we always had that culture, and more about setting up systems. So connecting our phone systems, our web chat systems, and our website when someone fills out a form directly into our CRM, so that when a lead comes in, it is immediately in front of the technical expert on that product. And they have an expectation. We have dashboards that shows them where they are at contacting customers, how quickly they're responding. And it's throughout the company. We have it internally in all of our boards, and everybody's aware of it. So that's maybe more that culture part. It's just providing visibility and driving down on a technology standpoint for execution.
And to echo some of Sean's comments earlier, having a dedicated team that's all they do is an important part of it, and that their single metric or KPI is speed of response. I mean, ultimately, if we're not responding quickly, whatever the appropriate speed is, if it's 31 minutes, 24 hours, it needs to be quick. It needs to be at the speed of the internet. So thank you for the question. Maybe I'll ask one more that came in. I know we're going over our time here, but I think it's kind of an interesting one, and it didn't get a lot of airtime in today's discussion, and that's around social media. Is social media, with the exception of LinkedIn, only for branding, marketing, or can it be used as a conversion channel?
I can answer that question as well. So ChemPoint has tested multiple social media platforms, Facebook. We engage with LinkedIn. At least from our perspective, from a brand standpoint, from your company, there's probably value in social media, but from a product selection process, we haven't seen it as a part of the buying process. I think it's just something that if you think about it critically, no one's going on Facebook generally to find out about a very specific surfactant used in coatings. It's just not their mindset. That may change over time. Maybe there's a chemical social platform for chemists or something, or for food technologists in the future that provides that sort of lift, but we haven't seen it be heavily used for product selection at this point. We primarily use it, to the questioner's point, around brand management for ChemPoint holistically as a company.
Thanks, Chris. Maybe just one more quick one. How do we handle web chat? How does ChemPoint have a dedicated team to watch for web chats? How is that handled internally?
Yes, we have a dedicated team that watches for web chats. They, whenever we're open for business, they're online. There's multiple overlaps of coverage for early in the morning, and also ChemPoint is in Europe, so we also have it in Europe as well. And that's how you take care of that problem. You really have to have someone dedicated. They can be doing other workflows too, but they have to be responding very, very quickly. Sean mentioned the number 31 minutes. That's an average. The time frame on average to get a web chat over to the proper technical rep, because the customer is generally engaging with us over web chat, is about 2 minutes. And so there's very high speed in that regard. And I think if anybody here thinks about it in your personal life, when you're buying whatever, maybe shoes online, or you're doing research on a car, you expect that quick response. If you don't provide that quick response, you're going to lose that customer. And so we have a team dedicated to that.
Yeah, great, for sure. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everyone, for participating today. We're going to conclude. I know we went a little long here, but we feel like it was a good discussion. Hopefully there was some good information that people were able to take away from today's session. And we'll see everyone on October 21st at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to continue the discussion around TekTok. And we will dive into data analytics and why it's important today, not just from a digital marketing perspective, but also sales enablement and many other business processes as well. So thanks again for everyone. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you on the 21st.